On a Buffelsdrift Farm in the Klein Karoo, we visit a cluster of old buildings restored by SAOTA and architect Jaco Booyens. For their efforts, they were awarded the International Domus Restoration and Conservation Award in Italy. It's here we meet SAOTA director Greg Truen, who acquired the farm in 2016, together with his partner Nancy Kashimoto.
My name is Greg Truen. I'm a director at SAOTA, which is an architectural company, ARC, which does interior design and architecture, and OCA, which does furniture. When I first came into this house, it was of course completely different. There was a wall built across here, which kind of formed a passage here. And this yellowwood ceiling was almost completely black from age. It was just dark and small, you know. The building had been plastered in cement at some point. So when we found it, it was covered in cement rather than in lime, which it would have originally been plastered in. So stripping the cement plaster away started exposing the history of the building. And you can read how the building was built once the plaster was off. And that was really intriguing, seeing the shutters and the way the openings were cut out and the way sun-dried bricks were used then to kind of finally form the openings. So we wanted that story to still be visible, so the history of the construction comes through. And of course, as different generations lived in the building, they would have expressed different things. So we wanted the interior to feel like it expressed us. One of the things we did is we put this double-sided fireplace into this wall, which has been fantastic because it warms up both sides of the house, and it's wonderful in winter. You get really nice warm light off of it. Oddly enough, this was a sofa that I had at home, but I realized that it was perfect for this space. There are no passages here, you know, so every single wall has got doors that you need to walk through. So this kind of semicircular shape really just fitted the space.
As the restoration project began to take shape, it became an exciting journey for Greg and Nancy. They share a love for the charm of the surrounding area and a common goal to create a beautiful living space with a deep connection to the historic valley.
And here's Nancy, the lady of the house.
Firstly, driving 4 hours out of Cape Town was a big thing. So to think somebody wants to live all the way out here was a challenging sort of idea to wrap my head around. And now I ask, when are we going to the farm? I'm the first one to pack.
I did the drawing of this kitchen. The idea really was that if we created this kind of bar height element here, we could have a kitchen behind it and we could hide what was going on in the kitchen. But of course, having a hob there, we needed an extractor. Together with Jaco, we came up with this solution, which actually works quite well.
There's also, if you just look at the table, there's a rawness and a hand workmanship that you see through it. And that's, I think, one of the pieces that was needed for this place. Yeah, so we cook, we take our dinner here at the table, or we take it outside. And then we spend the whole evening in amazing weather, just looking at the stars, looking at the galaxy, watching planes fly by.
The property itself is bisected in two by the road, and on this side of the property is the old house which we're in now, and the two old barns. And then on the other side of the road is another building, which was originally a wine store or an old tobacco store. So the second building we worked on was the wine store, which we've converted into a little kind of apartment. It's an amazing building sitting in the orchard, so as the orchard gets more established, I think it's going to really be an interesting space. It's pink, which is a conscious thing. In this part of the Karoo, you see these kind of red pigments and pink pigments in some of the old buildings. And it's also a reference to Louis Barragan's buildings in Mexico. We've been lucky to do a fair amount of work in Mexico and spend some time seeing some of those buildings. And there are very, very direct connections between some of those buildings and this kind of a building, which is quite interesting. So the idea behind this building was to create a little house, as it were, in the orchard, which I thought was a really interesting opportunity. It had some challenges. It was very badly altered, and we had huge termite nests in the walls that we had to replace. And the way the building's configured, it's got living and kitchens downstairs, and then this amazing bedroom up on this level with this ensuite. And the idea was to, again, have this kind of transparency so that you can look back up to the main villa and then look through and see the orchards beyond. We had to reconfigure the stair, so we removed the stair that was here. And we didn't want the new stair to feel like it had always been here. You know, we distinctly wanted it to feel like it was something new, something that we had inserted. So it's made out of old material, steel and stone and timber that match the construction technology of this building. And in addition to being a stair, there's this fantastic screen element that creates a balustrade on this side and a screen down in the living level.
The success of the restoration efforts are also thanks to the expertise of architect Jaco, who worked alongside Greg on the home. Jaco shared with us the skills he brought with him that added the necessary touches to their shared vision.
I'm Jaco and I'm an architect. So Greg was looking for somebody that knows clay buildings or know how to work with clay as a material. So he gave me a call. We're trying to keep the clay part of the old structures to keep it pure and to try and take it back to how we think it might have looked. Okay, so the wall was built with a cob technique, which means that you take layers of slumped clay and they heat it from the sides with a plank to keep it upright so the clay can't be too soft or too wet. At first, this was a solid wall. So the way they made openings was to roughly guess where the opening is going to be. So you build in this piece of poplar lintel at the top and then drill a hole in the corners here and there. And with a cutting wire, you cut the opening of roughly where you think the door frame must go. And then the gap between the door frame and the opening you've cut with the wire is filled in with sun-dried bricks.
Greg gave us more details about the restoration, and together with Nancy, we learned how this project has strengthened their connection and is shaping their future.
This was the old kitchen, and this was the old hearth, which we've converted into a shower. As you can see, it's still got the chimney above it. So this became this little bathroom, which has allowed the bigger space to operate as a kitchen. So these old buildings often had brakdakke, which were essentially mud roofs. So we took the opportunity to slice this little skylight into the slab, which just washes this area with daylight, which has been great.
Greg and I met about 3 years ago in Cape Town.
And it's been an amazing journey. It coincided with this project.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey bringing us together and this house together.
The 4-hour drive, or 8 hours, because it's 4 hours here and 4 hours back, they turned into dates. We had no choice but to talk to each other and get to know each other along those rides.
I'd always been very intrigued by this part of the country, and I'd always thought it would be interesting to have something out here. So it just kind of all came together. It just fell into place. You know, I one day was just looking on a property site on the internet, and I found a picture of this building, and it seemed too good to be true. You know, you don't really see buildings like this popping up on an estate agent's site ever. And came out and had a look at it and saw a lot of potential, and it just kind of grew from there. I inherited some records from my dad when they moved, and I always grew up with hi-fis like this. My daughter actually about a year ago got a little LP turntable, which inspired me. So I found an amazing place in Cape Town that sells second-hand hi-fi stuff. When it started, I wasn't sure that we'd spend a lot of time here, and I didn't really have a vision of ever retiring here. But it's funny, it is the kind of space that I think we could spend more time at. You know, a lot of these buildings have been modernized, and a lot of them are simply just falling apart from neglect. So I think it's important that some of them are kind of held together. It's such a unique heritage for this part of the country.
Buffelsdrift is a place where it takes you back to your childhood. There's a simplicity about being in this space that allows you to remember, what it is to be connected to the outside world, to your childhood, where you used to climb trees and run outside without the fears that we carry around today.
So restoring the past is reinvigorating the magic of simpler times and has the power to bring us closer together. Let us know what you think of this reimagined farmhouse using #TheInsiderSA.